white. I'm Robert Garcia, and I am not from Santa Fe. I grew up in a small town north of here. I'm from Cuesta. But Santa Fe is my home. I've been here for 30 years now, all in law enforcement. I'm currently the undersheriff of Santa Fe County, have been for the last almost half years. I've been in law enforcement now, started with the city of Santa Fe back in June of 1990. I worked myself into an area that I was very interested in working in, and that was working with children, just like Sergeant Carlos here in the crime against children's unit. During that time, I worked in that area for about 9 years, and I saw the abuse of children and the result of domestic violence come in and that affects our children. I saw that. During that time, in that 9 years that I actually was with juvenile services unit, I actually fostered 33 children that I took into my home and trying to give them a better life. Was it for a week, a month? The longest one was 5 years. In the end, I ended up adopting that child that was with me for 5 years. Can you imagine that? The court systems at the time, the backlog, it took so long for this child to remain in the home for 5 years. But anyway, like my colleagues here, we became law enforcement officers because we care about people. And that's why I'm running for sheriff. I retired after 23 years with the Santa Fe Police Department. I was lucky enough to say that Sheriff Solano had the trust in me that he would bring me over to become Santa Sheriff. I've been with him now for 7.5 years, and we've come a long way in that department. And I want to continue that. I am going back to my years growing up in West, I come from a very large family. I am one of 12 children. A very poor family at the time. I had to join the military back then because my parents could not afford to provide some form of education after high school. So I joined the military, just like my colleagues here. Matured enough in the military, as they would agree. You matured enough in there that I left the military, I joined the National Guard, continuing my service to the country. I've always had an interest in law enforcement. I always had an interest in helping people in any way, shape, or form, and that's why I became a law enforcement officer. That's my short version. I don't want to take much of your time because I hope you do have questions for us. And I'd be happy to meet with anyone individually. And it makes me proud to see such a large group of people that are concerned with what's going on in our community that makes you want to work even harder to make sure that no one falls through the cracks. In the legislative sessions, we've added more district court judges to the bench, which will assist in no victim falling through the cracks, no victim. And what got to me this morning, and I can't say much about this, I don't know much of the detail, but in reading the paper, and I'm sure a lot of you read the paper today, you have an individual that shoots his girlfriend, pregnant girlfriend, and her father, and he's claiming self-defense. Self-defense, and that just gets to me. But I can't go into that because it's being prosecuted, and I don't have much of the details, but it really gets to me that an individual who's claiming a 100-pound girlfriend, pregnant, is a threat to him when he is armed with mace or pepper spray and a firearm. That is sad, and it shouldn't be. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Margaret Kegel. I know most of you, but for those who don't, I'm a candidate for the 1st Judicial District Court Division 8, which is the Domestic Violence Division. You know me probably because I've been a member of this committee, the CCRC, since it was started many years ago when Casey was still here. So I've watched it grow and feel a lot of pride in what has been accomplished, although certainly no responsibility for that. As you know, I left my job as Domestic Violence Commissioner last summer. The job was then converted by the legislature. It was eliminated and changed to a district judge position. I decided to run for this position and was encouraged by many people to do so because they felt like they wanted me to come back in and continue to serve the community with domestic violence. As you know, I served in that position for about 9 years, and and I learned a lot. When I first started, I really didn't know very much about domestic violence. I knew some. I was a lawyer who practiced in family law, and so I knew some things about domestic violence, and I knew how to be a lawyer in a domestic violence case, but I didn't know a lot about what you needed to do to properly hear a domestic violence case. And many of you in this room taught me what I needed to know in order to do my job as well as I could. I learned from advocates, I learned from counselors, I learned from other lawyers, I learned from everybody that I could learn from. I've had extensive training in domestic violence, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, most of which was provided to us free, either through the Domestic Violence Coalition, Advocacy in Action, Rape Crisis and Trauma Treatment Center, Esperanza. All of the agencies provided me with training when I asked, because frankly that training is not available to members of the bench, the kind of training that we needed. There's also, of course, not money to provide that training right now for anybody because there's this huge budget shortfall. So I took advantage of all the training and also lots of meetings and lots of one-on-one conversations with many of you so that I could do the best job that I could possibly do. After that, I started becoming a trainer, and as the law enforcement officers know, I've done training for probably every law enforcement officer in the 1st Judicial District. I've gone in there when we had issues and problems, sat in their office, talked about every problem, and come to resolution from everything from service of process to handling of calls to testifying in court. So my qualifications, you all didn't get one on every table, but I have a flyer. It has basically what I've done on it. We have more out by the door. But I've been a lawyer for almost 22 years now. All of my practice has been devoted to helping people who are victims of violence. My first 12 years as guardian ad litem for abused and neglected children in our district. So I have the qualifications, obviously, that are here on the list. But I have two other things that I think are even more important than my qualifications and experience that one needs to be able to work in this area. And those two things are courage, to stand up to people who have problems with this unpopular cause at times. In this group it's not unpopular, but in other places it may very well be. And I'm sure I've shared with many of you some of the times that I've had to find that courage in order to continue working or not. And also I have a willingness to continue to learn and to continue to serve you. I have a lot of history, and I've been a lawyer for a lot of years, almost 22, but I have an enormous amount of energy, and I'm ready and willing to continue to serve you. I would love it if you would vote for me on June 1st so that I can go back in and continue to serve my community.